Hey lads, we are going to the November Rising Stars chess tournament today. Typical video that I always do every month. I really like this tournament. If you're in the Phoenix area, go to it. It's a good one. It's run really professionally. It's a lot of fun. Our rating is at 945. It's gone up every single tournament that I've been in. Very slowly gone up because I've lost a lot of games that I probably could have won. But today I'm hoping to win every single game and see if I can bump my rating up a good bit. I don't know if the bumping up of rating is going to happen as much now though, because I've got probably what 5 or 6 tournaments under my belt, so your rating doesn't change as much once you've played more. I'm honestly feeling pretty confident. Like, I think we'll do well. Last 2 tournaments I've won 3 of the 4 games, so that's good. Well, we'll see how we do. If you lads want to get a Blunderman hoodie, you can get one. They are in my merch store. You can also get a hat. I am decked out today. It is getting colder, so getting a hoodie is a good idea. Finally, I can actually wear a hoodie in Arizona. Alright, let's go there and see how we do at this tournament. I've played the games and I'm here to review them now. And I think you'll find this tournament quite exciting. Game 1. We played white in the first game, and I was quite happy to do that. It's nice to start off with a strong attack with the white pieces. So we jumped straight in to d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, defending this pawn in the center because I'm attacking it. He has his queen defending, but this is a typical move. We bring our bishop out. This is the Jabava London. And he makes this move here. A developing move, a very common response for players who are lower rated because they think, oh, you got to develop your pieces, you got to take central control, you got to get your knights out before your bishops. That's what every coach teaches. But getting both the knights here is not so great in this opening. And you can see why. We play essentially every single good move this entire game, and you're going to be very surprised with the result. We put our knight on b5, attacking the c7 square, and he does the only move which defends this square from my bishop and my knight, which is blocking with the pawn on e5. We take that pawn. I've done this opening multiple times, and he takes our knight. We take his knight with our pawn. And in this situation, a lot of the time people move their knight. And if he was to move it, let's say here, to attack my pawn, I can actually sack my queen, which is a brilliant move. He can take my queen, but then we capture back with check. So it's not advisable for him to take my queen here. We get another pawn. When he moves, we can grab here. So our position would be completely winning. He didn't go into this line. Once I attacked his knight, he actually moved his pawn to c6, which is a bit unusual. And here I took his knight. I knew that this was the best move. We've been playing every single best move so far, and you're going to continue to see that. He checks me, and we move our knight back. He didn't remember that knights can move backwards. He forgot this move, and instead he should have probably just taken the knight. Here he attacks my knight. I take his pawn. Best move. He attacks my queen. We move our queen in for a check. Best move. I believe I have, so far in this game, 100% accuracy. He moves his bishop to e6 to block the check from my queen. Here I castle, and it's saying it's not the top move. It actually is. If you look over here on the analysis, the engine is saying that this is in fact the best move. He goes g6 because he doesn't want any tactics here, getting my pawn to a promotion square. Develop my knight. He moves his rook in. We swap off, and I move my knight in to attack here or here. Getting some of the pieces out of the way of the defense of his king. He moves his rook over. We take. He takes, attacking my queen. So we throw in a check. He moves his king. We throw in a check and take a pawn. He moves his king back. And here we take a pawn. One of the best engine moves here. And we're just going to promote this pawn. Game is completely won. And here he moves his rook to e4. I looked at this move and I thought about it for about 30 seconds, like, what is going on? Why would he move his rook there? And I literally could do so many things here. I could well, what would you do? Would you try to check? No. He's guarding that square. Would you try to check? No, he's guarding that square. Would you just move back and promote your pawn? Yeah, that's not too bad. We could do that. Seems a bit, whatever. Or we could get another piece into the fight, and that's what we did. Took his rook, and we blundered checkmate in one. I don't know how I did this. I had like 40 minutes on my clock. He was probably down to 15. I have no idea what I was thinking. But this game depressed me, and I was so ready to just come into this tournament and win all 4 games. And to start off like this, I was very frustrated. I looked over at my opponent and I shook his hand. I said, good game. And I said, that's why you never resign. And he said he couldn't believe that I had done that. And I remember when I moved, he just like looked, and I knew as soon as I had moved and taken his rook, I saw that he had a checkmate in one, and I just sat there cringing inside. But if this does anything for anyone, just don't resign your game, because your opponent might be the blunder man. Well done to my opponent, Vihan. Let's jump into game 2, which I think you will find a lot more rewarding. Here we have game 2. I was playing the black pieces, and my opponent, little Indian boy, I don't think this is how you spell his name, Grahan, something like that. I couldn't quite read my score sheet, so apologies. But yeah, little Indian boy who was playing the white pieces here, and he started with the move e4, so I was ready for this game. I played c6. He developed his knight, attacking the central squares, and I play the Caro-Kann, put my pawn into the center. He took, which I was a wee bit surprised about. Most people don't usually do this, but it is a book line. Everything so far is good. And here he threw in this check. You're supposed to usually develop knights before bishops, so that's what I did. Put my knight onto c6, defending my king from this bishop, and he castles here. And one thing that makes the Caro-Kann slightly better, I think, than the French defense. French defense is e6 and then d5. The one thing that I like about the Caro-Kann is often you delay playing e6 and you can get this bishop out into the game on one of these squares. And in the French defense, the pawns are here, and so the bishop's always kind of trapped behind the pawns and is kind of a bad piece. But in the Caro-Kann, you can get it out of the pawn chain, and then you can lock this off. And so that's what I did. I attack his knight, and I'm pinning the knight. The knight cannot move. Not saying it would want to move to these squares, but if it did, then I could take the queen on the other side. So I was feeling pretty good about this. He kicks my bishop away. And there's actually a rule that I recently learned from one of Alex Banzea's videos, who is a international master on the Caro-Kann. He says his rule is if you have a knight on c3 or a bishop on b5, then if they try to kick this, take. He has a bishop on b5, so in this position I should have taken, but I actually went backwards. The computer engine likes this move, but it would be better to take. You can see here the evaluation. Both are fairly similar. It just makes things more simple if you take it off. But we played back. Knight comes out to c3. I lock off the pawn chain here, and then he plays the pawn up to d3, getting his bishop ready to attack. And in this position, I go rook c8, and he makes the mistake bishop to g5. And maybe you can pause the video and have a look and think about, why is this a bad move? I didn't spot it, but you can actually capture here, hit his queen. When he recaptures, he now has no longer a defender of the bishop. Let's say I did take, yes, he could take here, but then I would take on d1. And here, yeah, he could move out, but then I can actually take on c2 and then attack this one. And if instead he wants to just take this guy, then I can take this one here, or I can take it here, and I'm up a whole minor piece because I'm the one who attacked first. I got his knight here and his bishop, and he only got my bishop. So that would have been really good to play. I didn't do any of that. He comes here, and I just play this stupid move, defending my queen. It's not a bad move. I don't have a losing position, but I just missed a tactic, which was a very simple tactic. He takes the bishop. I develop my knight to e7, and he moves his queen up to e2, which I was a wee bit surprised about because he's still pinned. This knight still cannot move. I castle, and here he makes the blunder, moving his queen up. And the reason this is a blunder is because when there's two pieces that are a square apart, you often can fork both of them with a pawn. So I could have played the move d4 here, and yes, he could have taken here, but then I would be able to take, and he can't retake because my queen's holding. So he instead would have to just move his queen. Let's say he goes e4, and then here I can take on c3, and he can recapture the pawn. So in this position, I would go up a couple of points. Unfortunately, I missed this, and instead I stupidly took his knight. I need to be more aware of tactics in my games. He recaptured my knight, and then I started to play a wee bit better. I moved my knight in to attack his queen and also this pawn. So he moved his queen over. I thought he was going to move his queen all the way back. It would have made sense for him to come back to d1 because then he could hold this pawn. That's what I thought he was going to do. But he didn't. If he had have gone here, then I was planning on capturing here on c3 because when he recaptures, I've removed the defender of the bishop. So that's what I was thinking in my head as he was trying to figure out what he was going to do. But yeah, if you you see here, the only piece defending the bishop is the knight. And so I can just get rid of that and then take the bishop. I would win 2 minor pieces, and he only wins my rook. Rook's worth 5. The knight and the bishop are both worth 3 each. So I'd go up another point of material there. But he didn't. He actually moved his queen over to e3. And here we fork his queen and his rook. Here he moved his rook. And I guess he struggled to see that knights can move backwards. We took his queen. He took our knight. And now it's a very easy game to win. He moves his bishop in here to attack mine. I throw in a check. He defends. I throw in a check. He defends. I throw in a check. He defends, and then here I move my rook up to c7 so it's not attacked. He attacks my rook here, and I kind of wish that I would have spotted this immediately. It would have been smart for me to just go c1, king here, take, and gonna be mate in just a couple moves. I didn't spot it. Again, missed more tactics. Took his bishop, he took my pawn, and then I spotted it, and I was like, I need to go for this. Move my rook back. He attacks my rook. So I throw in the check. His only move is king h2, and we take his rook. And here he moves his knight to a3. Not quite sure what this move does, but we can throw in a check here. He has to block with the pawn, his only move, and now we have checkmate in 1 move. That was game 2, and I was very thankful that I was able to get a win there. The engine says that we played with an 85% accuracy, which I'm happy enough to see, but we did have 3 misses in that game, which is not good. 3 misses, 3 times that we missed tactics that were very obvious after I looked at the review and I started to analyze the game. Let's jump in to game 3, probably the longest game I've played over the board. I could have ended it so much quicker than I did, but we were playing little Vivia again, a person that I've played. I think this is my third time playing, maybe my fourth time playing over the board. I haven't lost to her yet, and I haven't drawn her yet. So I've beaten her every time. So you'll see in this game how it went down. Yeah, I got the white pieces. Let's jump into the game. We started the game with a move d4. She plays d5. I went knight c3. She went knight f6. Brought my bishop out. All exact same as game one. And here she played the move c6. The last couple times when I played her when she was white or when she was black, she made the mistake of putting her knight onto c6. So I believe she learned that that is not the correct move. And so here I go into my typical Jabava setup here. She brings the bishop out, and when the bishop comes outside of the pawn chain, kind of like in that Karo Khan game, she wants to get her bishop outside the pawn chain. It's good to do, but in the Jabava you can really attack that bishop, and so I sent all my pawns at her, just attacking her. And here, if she just ignores this threat of these pawns approaching her bishop, let's say she does this move, then I can go h5, and her bishop has no squares that it can go to. All these squares are taken. But she didn't do that. She made a little room for her bishop to hide in. And so here I throw my own bishop onto d3, hoping that I can trade here and give her doubled pawns, a big weakness. But she correctly takes my bishop off. I recapture, and then she plays e6. So I've had this same setup probably 20 times on my online series. So I was feeling very comfortable here. I developed my knight to e7 from g1. She brings her bishop out. I castle. She brings her queen out. I move my king over, protecting a2, just a double time, just in case. Let's say I did something stupid like this. She could take. I could maybe make the mistake of taking here, and she wins this pawn. Here I would have probably taken with knight just to reinforce it again. But none of that happened. I just moved my king over instead. And here she takes, I recapture, and she retreats her queen. I knew my position here was good. And now once you enter the middle game, you got to start looking for your pawn breaks. How are you going to break open the position a bit? Are you ready to attack? I am ready. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces all sort of into the game. They're ready to do something, and her king is still in the center. So I'm feeling like I need to break open. So here I play this pawn break. In this position, you actually have 2 pawn breaks. You can play e4, which the engine really likes, or you can play g5. Both moves are the top engine moves. So we went for the pawn break g5, and a lot of the time they take, rooks come off, but then I can really attack the king down this h8 to a8 row here, and have a really good attack. But she moved her knight, correctly moved her knight. She had space for the knight to jump here on h5, and I retreat my bishop because I don't want her to take my beautiful bishop. This bishop is very strong on this diagonal. It can see all of the squares, so I don't want to give it up. She tries to start a queenside attack coming for my king here. I take this pawn. She recaptures with her rook, and I move my rook to g1. The reason I take this is because I know that if I don't make this rook move, then she could maybe castle here, and maybe her king is quite safe in here. I wasn't really wanting that to happen, so I wanted the king to try to maybe remain here in the center, or potentially castle here, and then maybe I could get my queen onto the dark squares and maybe checkmate her somewhere. She moved her rook back, which I was kind of surprised to see. I go for my second pawn break, e4, really trying to open the position up. She moves her knight into the center, trying to get it off of this square here where it's maybe not as active as she wants it to be. And I greedily take this pawn because the knight is no longer defending. She moves her knight back, and so I attack the knight. She moves her other knight in just to defend her first one. Maybe she wants to move the rook over, and then I can't take the knight because this one's defending. And here I just double my rooks. I'm like, okay, I'm really going to go for this king. Hopefully I can maybe do something here. And I saw that we had this move e5. So
She played a4 and I went for e5, really trying to punish this and then jump in here. So she moved her knight, I check, she takes, I check, and she defends. Now, the reason this is not good for her is because the knight can't move. And maybe I can bring my queen in here somehow, queen in here, maybe here, and double down on the attack of it. So I'm thinking I have some really good chances of attacking here. So I did this very thing, moved my queen into h7, getting ready. I'm hitting this knight. I'm also looking at this square to just double down on this attack. And this is not the greatest move. The best move in this position would have been a3, just to stop any ideas she has on this side. If I just play a3, then I can attack. You know, then I can focus on my attack. But if I try to do this move first, then I'm allowing her to do some stuff on this side, and she plays the move a3 herself. And so now I'm looking at checkmate in 1. So there's no need for me to just allow this, you know. I should deal with her threat and then just slowly improve my own position. But you know me, I like to blunder. I move my knight back here to defend this checkmate threat. I thought I'll just leave my knight here, but then she comes in here and she grabs a pawn. She's looking at checkmate in 1. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm kind of just screwing the whole thing up. So I foolishly moved my king over to defend my knight here. But if you look at this, she can actually take here with check. She could have done this. And if I take with a knight, you see she's got a2 here. And she's able to checkmate me. Absolutely nothing I can do to get out of this mating net that she's got me in. Bit frustrating that I allowed all of that. But thankfully, she didn't spot any of that. She moved her knight over because she wanted to get another piece involved in the attack. And here I take the bishop. I sacrifice my rook. And she takes my rook. I throw in a check. She moves back. And yes, there's a free rook here. But if I was to take this, this would be checkmate in 2. She could just go knight e2. And I'd be forced here. And can you spot the beautiful checkmate in 1? Yes, you can. Queen takes d1. She doesn't have to worry about this square because the knight was defending it. But yeah, this would have been awful if I had taken this rook. But I'm not that stupid. You know, I am pretty stupid, but I'm not that stupid. So here, instead, I bring the queen to f6. And I see that now I have a double attack on this knight. And maybe I can win this piece. So she moves her king away. I take a pawn. She moves. I check. She moves. I finally take the knight. And here she traded off. And now I was feeling comfortable again. She foolishly puts her rook on h8. And the reason this is so bad is because I can centralize my bishop here on a good diagonal and just protect this pawn. And now I'm just going to fly through the rest of these moves because nothing really exciting happens. It just takes me about 700 moves to checkmate her. Got a queen. Forked her king and her pawn. Gave up my knight to promote to a queen. Crazy move. Have a checkmate in 3, but I instead decide to do a checkmate in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I find a checkmate in 15. That was game 3 of this tournament. Let's jump into game 4, which I think is honestly the most exciting game in the whole thing. I really enjoyed playing game 4 more than any of the other games. I got the black pieces. My second game of playing black in this tournament, I was very excited to do so. And I hope you guys enjoy this one against a young man named Grant, who, played the London. So you'll see how I dealt with the London with the black pieces. Here's game 4. We got the black pieces. Opponent plays the London, so we play the Dutch. The London, you always bring your bishop out and then close off the pawn chain. Bishop's on the outside. And it's quite a boring opening to play. I think people say it's the most boring but very solid opening to play. If you don't know how to play chess, just do this. Get your bishop out, get your knight out, and do this kind of pyramid structure with your pawns. I'm not saying my opponent didn't know how to play chess though. I'm just aggressively going after an opening system that I think is annoying to play against. Thankfully, we played some good moves this game and were able to get an interesting position. In the Dutch, it's quite an anti-positional sort of opening, and you can really annoy your opponents with this sort of pawn structure here, where this pawn on f5 is attacking the e4 central square. They have to maneuver their pieces and go for a break here, maybe get their rook here and go for this, get their knight here and go for this. But a lot of the time, people, when they're playing the London, they just go for this queenside attack because they don't want to disrupt this setup that they've got going on. But actually, this is really what you need to be playing for, is the e4 square. I've already defended that with my bishop, my knight, and my pawn. I was feeling pretty good here. And he started this attack down this side of the board. I prepared d6, which is the classical Dutch, where you can get this e5 pawn push in, and then you get 2 pawns here, and you can use these 2 pawns to maybe attack his king side. So my attack's happening on the king side, this half of the board, where his attack is happening on this side over here, which isn't so good. Like, my king's over here, why don't you attack this side? So I'm usually feeling pretty confident if I can attack and they push down here. I usually feel generally like I'm going to have a good game. However, I did miss something here. I could have taken a free pawn, and then his attack down the queen side would have been terrible, but I missed it. So we'll see what happens here. I move my knight to attack this bishop. He can't come here because of the pawn, and he can't move back because I can take it. He moves back, and I take it. And then here I was quite surprised, because most people would take with the h-pawn, because you usually want to get your pawns closer to the center. But he took with his f-pawn, which made me think, this doesn't seem right. I think there's probably a way in this position for me, a way to get in and attack. I move my knight in. He moves his pawn to c4, and I go for this central attack here. He takes, I take, and I'm threatening to fork his pieces. Here he moves his knight, and he missed this idea of the fork, which I missed myself in the previous game of black in this same tournament. So I was ready to spot this. He moves his knight out, I trade it off, and then I take his bishop, and now I have a just dominating position. We attack his queen, he moves his queen back. We attack his queen. I'm totally fine with the queen trade here because I'm up the exchange. I have an extra piece, so I was feeling pretty good. We take the pawn and we check the king, and here he blocks with the rook. It was in this position that I was really hoping that I could find a smothered mate. A smothered mate is where you attack the opponent's king over his own pieces. So all his pieces are around his king, and then you attack him with a knight over the top and you checkmate him because nobody can kill your knight. So I'll sort of show you. I didn't have one, but I really thought I was maybe going to have one. I'll show you sort of what I mean here. Let's say he does this move to attack my queen. I could throw in a check. He moves his king, and then let's say I do this move. Now obviously it doesn't work here, but let's say I go here and he takes me with the rook. Then I could maybe checkmate him over the top. The only way that the smother actually works is if there's a piece defending the queen. So this would work if, let's say, my bishop was a dark squared bishop and was here. He can't capture me with the king, so he would have to capture me with the rook, and then I could deliver a smother. But I've never actually gotten a smother. I've had positions where a smother was possible and my opponent has resigned right before I've gotten it, but I've never actually gotten one. So I'm still really hoping I can get one over the board or online at some point. Instead of allowing any silliness, he just defends with his rook. And so I take his rook here. He recaptures, and I move my own rook in, getting ready to potentially come in here and attack, or bringing my rook here to attack the pinned piece. He pushes his pawn. I move my bishop to defend this check, because that's why he pushed the pawn. He checks me. He moves his queen, and here I get my other rook involved. He takes my pawn. I take his pawn. He moves his king over. I check him. He defends with the knight. And here we just swap off all the pieces. So here I'm just a rook up. And here I move my king over. He throws in a check. And I think the simplest way is to just counter check and force a queen trade. So he takes my queen. I take his. Get my king forwards and aggressive. And then just trap his king in the corner, make it so that he can't move his pawns anymore. And now he's only got his king to move. So he moves into the corner. I move my king over. And there's a forced checkmate. Was very happy with this win. This was the 4th game of the tournament. And because of this, we were able to win the 2nd place trophy. So now the whole world can see I have a 3rd place trophy in October for the Rising Stars, and I have the 2nd place trophy for November for the Rising Stars. So pretty happy to get that, the under 1200 section. I should really have gotten the 1st place trophy. I foolishly lost to that person in game 1, but it is what it is. Hopefully in December I'll be able to get the 1st place trophy, which is slightly taller than the 2nd place trophy. So I'm very excited about that. Hope you lads enjoyed this recap of the November Rising Stars tournament. I'm going to be going to the December one in just a couple weeks, and I will let you guys know how that goes. And hopefully my rating will go up. Because I lost that first game of this tournament, even though I came 2nd place overall, I didn't improve my rating because the person I lost to was very low rated. So that was quite frustrating. My rating went from like 960 to maybe 950. I think it actually went down from this tournament. So it's pretty frustrating that it's taking me so long to improve my rating over the board. But it is a big learning experience. I have learned so much since my first over the board tournament. And I think my rating is going to rapidly rise the more tournaments that I'm able to get to. So I'll try to be getting to some more. Hope you enjoy this kind of format, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye for now.